an enormous privilege to have with us tonight the one who does not need any introduction, Rabbi Haber, who is doing so much for our community. Today, especially the movement of Kesher, which I am humbly also part of. I am hesitating if you could say Sheikh Haber because we did not have the zehut to have a rabbi for quite a while, and tonight is definitely such a simcha for us all present here. At the same time, I would like to first thank the initiative of our president, Rosh Hashanah, who's been pushing and trying, and thank you for your persistence. And of course to our sponsor, Mr. Isaac Nachmias, who's been sponsoring the class tonight in honor of his wife Joel, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu help them together to have nachat, their challenge, simcha, hatzlacha, see them in the semachot always, and without any further ado, Rabbi Joel.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. And it is a big honor to be here. I just want to tell you straight out, Roy Sheikha is out of his mind. This man has persisted. He has called. He has been on this for years. And it is such an honor to be able to have all your effort come to fruition. And it's really much bigger than just what tonight is. What it's really about is what this committee and the rabbis in this shul are doing for this community. And to see the growth that's happening in SLC, and to see the Torah that's happening, and the minyanim, and the learning, and the speeches, and the Torah Center, and all that's taking place in this shul is unbelievably inspiring. Because our community is really shifting. And our community has more growth and more Torah over the years, and especially even the last 2 years, it's been even stronger than before. And SLC is one of those pieces, maybe even a pioneer in that end of really making sure that there's Torah and growth in this shul. It's easy for a shul like this to just be, it's our shul, it's been here a long time, old community, just keep them here. Or you could say, no, we're going to make it different, and we're going to grow, and we're going to be part of what all the inspiration that's happening in our global community. So to watch what you've done as the president of this kahal, to watch what the rabbis, Rabbi Hayun, and the other rabbis in this kahal are doing to really make Torah powerful in this building is really inspiring to all of us. So thank you. Also want to thank Mr. Isaac Nachmias. In honor of his wife, Joel, I could testify. I don't know what goes on in their house. I know you're here. I don't know what goes on in their house, but I know what they produce. And I know their children well. And the midot, and the character, and the growth, and the basketball ability of their children is something really that I've had a tremendous joy in watching. So just whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. And B'ezrat Hashem, your sons will find wonderful wives, and B'ezrat Hashem, you continue to build a beautiful family, but it's an honor for tonight to be in your honor. Okay, I have more mics here than Biden has. At least I know how to clip him, he probably doesn't. I didn't slip getting up the steps. I got up by myself. What we are going to talk about tonight is a fairly serious topic, and one that every life ultimately encounters: defeat, failure, or God forbid, tragedy. Through most people's lives, there are ups and downs. And they can work really, really hard, and then suddenly there's an up and a down. And a person could be trying really hard to get married, and it doesn't seem to be happening. Or a person could be really trying hard at a job, and it doesn't seem to work. Or a person could be praying for a long time for children, and it's not as easy as they expected. And what created the backdrop of the topic that I was asked to discuss tonight is that recently our community, extended community, we watched some challenging things happen. Children in hospitals, young people going through things they didn't expect. And you kind of turn around and say, like, I don't know what to do with this. We're good people, we're trying hard, we're working really hard, we're doing everything we should be doing. How do you handle when things like this take place? And so, the road to strength begins now. Hashem created the world. When He created the world, He created it a perfect place. Perfect place means a perfect place. The world was an awesome place to live in. Adam Harishon, when he was placed in that world, was placed in a world of perfection. Hashem controlled everything. Hashem ran everything. Everything was great. Food was served to him. His life, there was no need to build, to work, to try. Everything was just perfectly taken care of. And then, man sinned. Once man sinned, what happened after man sinned? Some people think that now Hashem told man, now you control. No, that's not what happened. Hashem's control of the world, Hashem's perfection of the world, and His leading of this world didn't change at all. He just added to that world a curse called B'ze'at apecha tochal lechem. He just added to the world a curse, Kotz v'dardar tatzmiach lach, that now in this perfect world, there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be difficulty, and there's going to be really, really hard work. But the work and the control have no connection to one another. Hashem's controlling the world, and you have to work. Hashem's controlling the world, and you have to work. That's why all of our tefillot, a lot of it reference Mitzrayim. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, took us out of Mitzrayim, took us out of Mitzrayim. Why are we saying again and again, He took us out of Mitzrayim? Because we all acknowledge that when that happened, He was completely in control, and we had nothing to do with it. We didn't split the sea, we didn't bring plagues, we didn't bring the Torah from Har Sinai. He completely did the whole thing. He was totally in control, and we were just following His lead. And yes, we jumped into the water. And yes, we had work in Egypt, that the work didn't contribute to our leaving Egypt. And the jumping into the sea didn't quite split the sea. That Hashem did in total control. We had to work, and He had control. And there were two separate entities. If you understand the world that way, the work becomes easier. Because it's not about the work that leads to the result. Hashem's controlling the result. I just also have to do work. They don't come together. I have to do work. Hashem wants me to do hard work. Sometimes really, really, really hard work. But He's in control of the result. So when you say, once I'm working so hard, why am I getting the results? They have nothing to do with each other. In order to clarify this mindset, I want to ask you a question. Is it possible that someone can work too hard? Can you work too hard? Do you think there's such a thing as working too hard? Yes or no? I'll take your answers. Every day we work too hard. 2022 is too hard. Life today is too hard. Or the work, at least, is very hard. The answer is, of course, there's such a thing as working too hard. When you find yourself working too hard, and we're going to try to identify what that is, then that means, in essence, you stopped realizing what we just said. You think it's your work. You think your work creates it. And you stop realizing that He's controlling it. It means you decided you want to control. You want to own this. You want to make it happen. You're going to do this. The Havetz Chaim has a famous analogy. He says it's like someone who has this big vat or big barrel of water. And so there's a faucet with the water coming out. The man says, I really want more water in this barrel. So he cuts out a hole and makes another faucet coming out of the barrel. Does that make sense? That's dumb. That's ridiculous. Another faucet is not bringing more water. It looks to you like it is, but it's not. So thinking another hour of work is going to bring Hashem's water, is going to bring his results, he's the one delivering. He doesn't need 6 faucets. He needs 1. He needs your hard work because you have a responsibility to hard work. But he doesn't need that work to create the result. How do I know when I'm working too hard? When I'm spinning my wheels. When I'm doing something again and again and again, and nothing's happening. When you're spinning your wheels, it means Hashem says, stop, leave it up to me. Because I am the one in control. So when we look around and we see things happening and you see failure happens and you see lack of success or you see you didn't get to where you wanted to be or you see a defeat or you see, God forbid, something tragic happens, don't ask yourself, how come this work didn't create this result? I did my work. I did what I'm supposed to do. Hashem's going to decide the result. And sometimes when I stop is when he delivers. Or maybe when I stop, he decides how to bring it back later or bring it back a different way. I work hard, he brings results. Let me give you 2 examples. One is my father and one is my son. First, my father. About 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, in the summer, my father got a few strokes in a row. So, maybe some of you remember this? Anyone here remembers? Yes? People knew, people were praying. And we were in Deal at the time, he went to Jersey Shore, that was horrible. He came home that night, he had another stroke, we went to Monmouth Medical. Over Shabbat, we went to Monmouth Medical. Right after Shabbat, we go to Monmouth Medical, some of my family members were there for Shabbat. And the doctor says, his vein, artery, whatever it is back here, is pretty clogged. And I don't really know what you're going to do about this. That's what the doctor told us. So we were like, thank you, doc. That was helpful. The next day, we transferred to Columbia. If I'm remembering correctly, we were there a few days. Columbia didn't really know what to do. They sent him home. Then he had 2 more strokes. So Columbia, we brought him back to Columbia. Now, as he's in the hospital, again, they're minor strokes, but he's in the hospital, the doctor comes in, he says, you have a big problem here. There's really no passageway for the blood to come up to the head, or it's like really, really thin and it's getting worse. So he says, maybe we'll do a surgery. This is Thursday. He says, maybe we'll do a surgery on Tuesday. Then he comes back in the afternoon, he says, we can't wait till Tuesday. We need to do a surgery tomorrow morning. We're going to do a procedure to try to put a stent in. Any doctors here? What's this, artery or a vein? Artery? Okay, good. You're going to put a stent in this artery here. Okay. We're nervous wreck. They say, that's really the only hope you have. All my siblings, there's 9 of us, and all of our spouses and my mother, and one random person who happened to show up. 20 people were in the waiting room of Columbia, waiting for one of the best doctors in the world to perform this procedure. Before my father goes in, he says, listen, and I'm the oldest son, I'm the oldest kid, so I had to kind of speak to represent. He says, listen, this is really risky. We don't know that this is going to work. So I said, do you have another option? He says, no. I said, okay, so then please proceed. He comes out after an hour of the procedure. He says, I still didn't do it. I started going in, and I realized that it's riskier than I thought. And the chance of success is less than I thought. Again, all my siblings are standing around. I said, doctor, is there another option? He says, no, there's really no other option. So I said, okay, we have no choice. Please go do it. Now my siblings, all of us are in the waiting room. We are crying our eyes out. 3 hours on Friday morning, all of us, we have our tehillims, and we're just bawling. After 3 hours of bawling and crying and praying, the doctor comes out. He says, I tried, didn't work. I couldn't get the stent in. It couldn't create a passageway. It's too clogged. It didn't work. Nothing I could do. We're crying. We don't know what to do. I'm a rabbi in a shul in Deal. The shul calls up and says, Rabbi, you're coming to shul for Shabbat, right, tonight? So I went to shul. Some of my siblings stayed in the hospital. Some of us came home. And now it's on Shabbat. I'm in Deal. And I'm walking out of shul on Shabbat morning. I pass by someone I'm really close to. You might know him. His name is Nathan Hoffman. And at the same time, as I'm talking, he's asking, what's the story with your father? What's going on? What happened? I tell him the story. Rabbi Ozeri passes by. And he says to me, he says, Rabbi Haber, what's the story with your father? I said, here's the story. He says, there's a doctor in town that happens to be in Deal this weekend, was never in Deal before or never Deal after, happens to be in Deal this weekend, who's connected to Mount Sinai, and they have a doctor there who's a cowboy, and he's willing to take crazy, risky procedures. Meet him. I go to that doctor. He's in someone's house in Deal on Shabbat. We go to the house. We call my siblings on Shabbat that are in the hospital. We said, we need a disc of daddy's information. Somehow they go downstairs. They get the disc of my father's surgeries. Some guy was in a dark room. I don't even know what he was doing there, just watching some movie on Netflix in the hospital of Columbia. They go back. An hour later, the guy's gone. But he gave them the disc, and that was it. They drive on Shabbat to Mount Sinai, meet with a doctor there's like a Starbucks or something like that on the hallway of Mount Sinai. Meet with the doctor at the Starbucks. They call back. They want my father transferred right now. This is already now Shabbat afternoon. I'm about to speak to my shul. I get off the stage. I go say, we got to go get Rabbi Ozeri. He's in the middle of speaking at Deal Shul. In the middle of his speech, he says, I got to go. In front of 600 people. I got to go. He has he tells Rabbi Nahum, you take over. He gets off the street, gets on the phone on Shabbat afternoon on the grass outside of Deal Shul with my siblings while I'm speaking in the shul next door because I don't want to tell everyone exactly what's going on. He didn't care. I guess I did. And figuring out how to get my father transferred. He's transferred to Mount Sinai. The doctor says, this is more risky than I thought. Let's wait. Let's wait. Let's wait. 3 days later, Doc, what's the story? Let's wait. We waited 60 days, and he sent my father home. That's the whole story. He told my family, he said, please, I need you to take a video of your father walking across the room so that I could share it with my team to show them that miracles happen. We did all our effort. We did all our stuff. Doctor said it didn't work. This is a true story. Doc said it didn't work. We transferred him to Mount Sinai, and he just sat there for 2 months. And they kept watching the blood and watching the blood pressure and all the different things that they watch. And then they said, I don't know, he's starting to improve a little bit. Go home. A few weeks later, he started to walk, started to talk. Baruch Hashem. We do our effort. He does the results. They're not affiliated. Now I'm going to give you a much less dramatic story, but one that's meaningful to me too. So I sent my 2 oldest sons to out-of-town yeshiva, which is a really high-level yeshiva. My 3rd son wasn't quite on that level, but he decided he wanted to go too. From 5th grade already, this is for high school, for 5th grade already, he says, I'm going. And we're hearing him say in 5th grade, when I go to the yeshiva, it's called Peak School Yeshiva. When I go to Peak School Yeshiva, and we're looking at each other like, you're so not on the level for Peak School Yeshiva. Like, I don't know how you're doing this. But we didn't say it. My wife and I just looked at each other and said, you're going to try other places. Finally, in 8th grade, he decided to take a test. Somehow he got in. I'm not sure if it's because we had pull, we were already close to the yeshiva, I spoke for them a few times, I don't know. I'm not sure he got in. Now I'm nervous wreck. I don't know. I know he's going to work hard, but I have no idea how this is going to work. Like he's not on the level. Over the last few months, I got a little distracted. Last month, his 9th grade rabbi keeps trying to reach me. Okay, we keep missing each other. 2 weeks ago, on Friday night, I'm sitting in my house and I'm talking to my kids. And I'm talking about, how my son in yeshiva, how's he doing? We don't know how he's doing. He said, what's going on? How he's doing? Good, bad? Okay, good. Sitting at the table, we're about to say Birkat Hamazon. We got a knock on the door. So I know it's my my nieces from around the corner, they're coming over after the meal. So I tell my daughters, go into the door. They go into the door, they say, Dad, it's not our cousins. I said, who is it? It's someone here for you. So I go to the door. It's my, it's where it could have been. I go to the door, and it's my son's 65-year-old Rabbi, who doesn't live in Brooklyn. I said, what are you doing here? His name is Rabbi Brog. He's Rabbi Miller's grandson. I said, what are you doing here? He says, I've been trying to reach you. I need to tell you what's going on. He sits down by my table, and he starts to say, I never saw this before. I'm teaching for 33 years. I don't know what clicked in your son's head. He says, in the beginning of the year, he didn't even understand my jokes. He says, and now he's involved in everything. I just had to share it. He says, I come to Brooklyn every few months to spend time to be at Shabbat with my mother. My siblings all switch off. His father passed away, his mother. They spend Shabbat with my mother. She lives down the block, whatever, she lives a few blocks away. I was told your address. I went to East 9th, knocked on the door of your address on East 9th, which is not your house. The person answers the door. His daughter, the person who answered the door, happens to be your other daughter's closest friend. She knew where you live. So I said, I'm going to walk to your house on East 12th, and I'm here to tell you how your son is doing. He spent an hour at my table to tell me he never saw anything happen like that before in his life. We do the effort. He does the results. So when things happen, when failure happens, when success happens, when defeats happens, when delays happen, when not what you expect happens, when your timetable isn't the way you thought it was going to be, don't blame yourself. Understand that it's him. The same way he controlled a perfect world on the first day of creation, he's controlling that same world right now. He just made a decree that we need to work. And he made a decree that sometimes we need to work really hard. And if we see that there's hard work we need to do the hard work. I'm not saying work 6 hours a day and call it a day. Work hard. If there's more work to do the more work. And if there's more work to do the more work. And if you see that there's another 7 steps, take those 7 steps. Don't be lazy. Don't say I don't have to work. Work really hard. But then leave the results in his hands. You know, the Magid of Kelm used to say, he said, we often say Be'ezrat Hashem. The term Be'ezrat Hashem is a mistake. Because it sounds like I'm doing it, he's going to help me out. No. The right word should be B'Ritzon Hashem. He's going to have the will. He's going to decide. He's not helping me on this job. In our parasha, the pasuk says, Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh Melacha. 6 days you'll work, and on the 7th day you'll rest. It doesn't say Ta'aseh Melacha, which means you should work. It says Te'aseh Melacha. Work will be done. What does that mean? The answer is what we just said. Is that the work, the results, Hashem's making the results happen. You're working hard, but it's Te'aseh. He's making it happen. You're not the one who's making it happen. The other day I had a meeting with someone who him with 5 other people were involved in a major deal that was really, really successful. And you know, when you're from far and you hear about a really successful deal, you get like awed. Wow, I can't believe they did that. They made that kind of money. I can't believe how well they made $500 million. I can't believe that happened. What they do, they're geniuses, they're great businessmen. So once I had him, I started asking him questions. And after asking all the questions, I said, wow, most of you were just along for the ride. He says, Rabbi, the truth, we were all along for the ride. Someone happened to put us together. One of us happened to be good at this. Another one happened to be good at that. Each guy individually couldn't have made $1. But somehow Hashem found a way to put them together by a few mistakes and a few things that went wrong. And because of that, Hashem threw them together in a pot. And somehow the mixture created $500 million later. Hashem decides the results. So when you live this way, you don't have the frustration from the things that aren't going the way you wanted it to go. And the daughter who's not engaged at the you're putting in your effort. If there's a boy to date him. If there's someone to meet them. But then leave the results in his hands. And some people like to get into like, oh, this is a sign. It didn't work, so it's a sign. That's a sign. This is a sign Hashem wants it. This is a sign Hashem doesn't want it. Do you believe in these signs? Do you think it's a sign? My shoe fell off. It means I probably shouldn't go. I couldn't find a parking spot. I probably shouldn't come. If I go by that, I shouldn't be here right now. I couldn't even find a pump, by the way. Then I found one. Don't tell anyone. But I don't agree with that either. Sometimes Hashem wants it to be harder. Sometimes He wants it to be easier. It's as simple as that. You know, I told a story in the speeches about 3 months ago about like a really powerful moment that I had. It was one night I was in bed, and I was really getting to bed early. And as I'm in bed, about to like set the alarm and turn over my head, I said, 1 second, I forgot to pray Arbit. And if you've ever been in that position, we're going to pray Arbit after here tonight, so we take care of that problem. Good. So I forgot to pray Arbit. And you're in that position, like, In 2 seconds, I got totally back into regular clothing, suit, tie, the whole 9 yards, got into my car, drove down Coney Island to Landau's, got every single green light, and made the minyan. Perfect. I was like, wow, that was a great moment, and Hashem was really on my side. Every green I got. Nice? Good? Isn't that a clear sign from Hashem that He's on my side and He wanted me to do and I was doing the right thing? Yes, you agree with the sign? Clear sign. Yes, everyone agrees with the sign? Good. This past week, in bed again, in pajamas, same time, I said, oh no, I forgot to pray Arbit again. I don't believe this. Okay, quickly, get in dressed, the tie, the whole thing. I think this time I dropped the tie. But the suit, the whole thing, I get into the car and I got every single red. Every red. Like the small ones, the ones that are only for a few. I got that red too. Every red I got. I said, wow. The greens didn't mean anything. The reds, sometimes Hashem makes it easy. Sometimes Hashem shows you that He wants it to happen. But sometimes He wants it to be difficult. And sometimes you're doing something good and it's difficult. And that's not a sign that you're wrong. It's just a sign that Hashem wants more work out of you. And He's going to decide how the results are going to go. So when you see this happening in your life, no frustration, only growth. What am I doing? What can I do to grow if Hashem's making this difficult? How much more does He want me to do? Because sometimes He may happen to want more work, more inner work, more outer work. He may want more work. Not that the work is going to deliver the result. He's delivering the result. But He may be putting you in a position and saying, I want to see you try harder. I want to see you drive further. I want to see you work more. And then I'm going to decide when I'm bringing the result. And if you have this mentality in your head for real, it gives you a tremendous amount of strength because of a beracha that Hashem gives our people in Parashat Mishpatim. Hashem says, if you serve Hashem, if you serve Hashem, your God, and you Torah and you follow His ways, I'm going to remove sickness from within you. Now, what does that mean? Like, if I serve Hashem, why is the sickness there in the first place? You never addressed why the sickness is there in the first place. If you serve Hashem, then I'll remove the sickness. What brought the sickness? What does it mean? If you work, then I'll remove it. So the Kitab Sofer has a beautiful explanation. He says the sickness that we're talking about in this pasuk is not physical sickness. There's no reason why why Hashem sent the physical sickness. There's not physical sickness. What he's talking about is there's another sickness that people have. An unhealthy ambition. This unhealthy need to keep doing and building and conquering and conquering and conquering and more and more and more and more money, more houses, more clothing, more stuff, more fame, more. There's unhealthiness inside of people. When we open up our hands every day, we say, Potech et yadecha umaspia lechochai ratzon means allow someone's ratzon to be maspia. Allow someone's will to be satiated. Because sometimes you think that getting this is going to solve the problem. The reality is, this won't solve the problem, because then you're going to need this, and then you're going to need this, and then you're going to need that. As long as you have this unhealthy ambition inside of you, you're never going to be filled. Masbiya l'chochad ratzon means Hashem could fill your will and make you happy and calm and satisfied. Hashem says, if you serve me properly, if you believe in me properly, v'hasiroti mahala mikebecha means I'm going to remove the sickness that's inside of you. What's that sickness that no one else can recognize, that no one else can see, that has no external symptoms? You don't get fever, you don't get tired, you don't, God forbid, need surgery or procedures or stitches. What's that sickness? That's mikirbecha. It's this unhealthy ambition where you think you have to keep conquering and conquering and conquering. If you're able to trust Him, then that conquer fades away. Because you know, I put in all the work, then I go to sleep at night and see what results He's going to give. When I stopped worrying about my son is when Hashem helped my son. When I gave up on healing my father is when Hashem decided to heal him. We did a tremendous amount of work. We were lunatics. 9 of us. For those 2 months, we were lunatics. We worked so hard, but it had nothing to do with the results. Hashem created those results. And I want to give you one last thought and one last analogy. And then we're going to pray our beat. Okay. Last thing I need is to be home and, okay. I don't know why I had this thought a few weeks ago when we were reading the parasha about Kriyat Yam Suf. Whenever we imagine Kriyat Yam Suf, we all imagine splitting the sea. Whenever we imagine splitting the sea, we always think of it in such beautiful terms. Like the sea split, and there were 12 lanes, and each lane had water coming out of the wall, and fruits growing from the walls, and it was so wonderful, and so magnificent, and so glorious, and so miraculous, and the greatest miracle literally that ever transpired in the history of mankind. It was so gorgeous, so inspiring, so amazing, and so scary. Because I want you to think about this for a second in real time. As they're walking through the Yam Suf, the Egyptians are still alive. The Egyptians behind them are saying to themselves, we're going to follow them into the sea, which is what they did. Which means as they're walking through their 12 rows for the 12 Shvatim and having water, they're watching Egyptians behind them, ready to follow them into the ocean and kill them. So if the Egyptians were planning that, I'm sure the Jews were watching it. And the proof that the Jews were watching that is that Vayosha says only after they saw the Egyptians dead did they sing to Hashem. Which means the whole time it was a frightening journey. Which means the greatest miracle of all time, the most glorious moment that we've ever had outside of Matan Torah was frightening and was scary. And most people going through it probably thought that they were potentially minutes away from their death. But at the same time, what gave them strength is the knowledge Hashem is doing this. And Hashem is controlling this. And that knowledge, I think, gave them the confidence to keep going. That's what you need. You need to realize that Hashem is splitting your sea. Doesn't mean the Egyptians are dead yet. It doesn't mean that everything's fixed. It doesn't mean everything's solved. But He's splitting your sea. He's holding your hand. He's watching you. He's protecting you. He's controlling the whole thing. He's been controlling your life till now. You acknowledge it. If someone asks you for real, do you see the hand of Hashem till this point? You'll say 100 times. So then why do you all of a sudden getting afraid? Why do you all of a sudden think He's going to stop? Why are you all of a sudden frustrated by a failure? Why are you all of a sudden frustrated by something that's taking longer than you expected? He did it when we split the sea. We read that every single day to remember the moment again. Because we're living that moment. We're not just remembering it, we're doing it. If this could become our mentality, And if this could become our frame of mind, then this should give us strength. The only thing is, as much as you believe what we're saying right this minute, it's very easy to forget. That's actually why you pray 3 times a day. Because literally, when you pray Shacharit, you can forget by Mincha. When you pray Mincha, you can forget by Arbit. You pray at night, you forget the next morning. How many times do you go to sleep at night calm and wake up with a cold sweat? Pray again. Remind yourself again. You're in His world. He's taking care of it. He's splitting the sea. He's in control. Egypt is in history. Egypt is current events. He's holding our hand right now. We're putting in all the work, and He's putting in all the results. And we're going to work as hard as we possibly can, and then we're going to leave the results completely up to Him. And that is going to give us strength. And that's going to give us confidence. Because yes, I don't know the results of anything. Anything that you're worried about, I have no idea what the result's going to be. If I'm honest, I have no idea what the result's going to be. But I know that He's handling it. And I know He's in control, and I know He's running a perfect world. And I know that if I could have the courage and the strength and the ability to hand it over to Him and say, you want me to work 14 hours tomorrow? I'll give you 14 hours tomorrow. But please, Hashem, I know it has nothing to do with the result you're going to determine. And I'm looking to you for that result. And with one last analogy, it's from Rabbi Biederman. He sends out these little videos. And this one, to me, was inspiring. He says, there was once a man walking by a field, and he sees 2 people. One man is digging a hole, and the other man fills the hole. Then he digs another hole. The second guy fills the hole. Then the man digs a third hole, fills the hole, digs the hole, fills the hole, digs the hole, fills the hole. He's looking at these people, he's like, these are Majnunim. What are you doing? You're just digging a hole and filling a hole. You're not doing anything else. You're just digging in and filling it, digging in and filling it. So he goes over to them. He says, men, what are you doing? They say, listen, we're digging a hole and we're filling it. My job is to dig it. His job is to fill it. He says, okay. He says, and usually there's a third guy. And the third guy, after I dig, before he fills, puts in a seed. But today, the third guy's not here. He couldn't make it. So we're doing our job. Genius. The goal is not to dig and fill. The whole point is to add the seed. So tomorrow when you go to the office or you go to whatever project you're involved in and you start digging and someone else starts filling and you're working hard, make sure you add the seed. Make sure you add the seed of faith and trust and belief. Make sure you add the seed of splitting the sea. Make sure you add the seed of te'aseh melacha, that Hashem is the one doing the work. I'm not the one doing it. Make sure you add the seed of trust. Make sure you add the seed of belief. Make sure you add the seed, more importantly, no matter what you're looking at, make sure you add the seed of strength. Thank you. Good night.